Join us on the program right now. John Frazer, the director of NRA-ILA's Research and Information Division. John, good evening, sir.
Hey, Kimmo, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on the program tonight.
Always happy to be here.
You're like my Mr. Wizard. Every time there's a new anti-gun paper that comes out, I have you on so we can get the real facts rather than the spin. The latest is from Mayors Against Illegal Guns. They've got this new report out that says most states don't need major changes, but they say that there are about 10 states in the country that are responsible for most of the quote-unquote gun trafficking or trafficking of illegal firearms in this country. Have you been able to actually look at this report, John?
Yeah, we have, and I think the bottom line when you look at it is that if you rank 10 states, if you rank the states, there's always going to be a top 10. The question is whether it's relevant, is whether the laws that they promote are relevant to the to gun trafficking. In other words, does their study really show that the lack of certain laws makes it facilitates gun trafficking out of a state into other states?
Mm-hmm.
And there are several key points on this. One is, first of all, that only a small percentage of the first of all, we're talking about guns that are traced, and that's only about 1% of the guns that are sold in any given year.
1%.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Second is that you are looking at only 60% of the trace attempts, because as they acknowledge in a disclaimer way in the back of the book, 39% of ATF firearm traces are unsuccessful for various reasons. Very closely related to that is that, as ATF itself says, and as the Congressional Research Service has repeatedly said, firearm traces are not a statistical sample. They're conducted for law enforcement investigations, not to figure out what the universe is of guns that are used in crime. Not all guns that are traced are actually used in crime, and not all guns that are used in crime, of course, are traced. In fact, you might argue that the guns that are traced are guns used by less successful criminals.
Okay. Now, John, I'm wondering, we had a caller earlier tonight, Mark from Richmond, Texas. The Associated Press ran a story about this saying nearly half of the firearms traced come from other states. This was something like 43,000 of more than of 145,000.
Right. They say that 49% of the firearms traced came from 10 states. Well, those 10 states happen to have 47% of the U.S. population. So it seems as if maybe guns are being sold there in proportion to the population. Another point on the overall study is that if you look at the top states, what they say are the top states, what you see is that these are states that actually, based on other surveys, have high rates of gun ownership. In fact, there's a forthcoming article in America's First Freedom by Dave Kopel, frequent guest here, I believe, who analyzed a similar study by Legal Community Against Violence and found that basically what you find is that anti-gun laws are correlated with fewer people owning guns, but not with lower crime.
Yeah, so we don't know. In other words, John, the 10 states that they're talking about here are states in which gun ownership, let's say, is more common. There are more gun owners in these states than there are in places like Massachusetts, for example.
Yeah, and there are also states that happen to be close to other states that have high crime. So what you see is typically, for example, as the study reports way in the back, about 70%. Actually, I'm not even sure it's mentioned in this study, but it is a fact from other studies that national, as a national average, in any state, about 70% of the guns that are traced are originated in that same state. So most guns traced from New York State are bought originally in New York State.
Yeah.
And what you see is that and then if you look at for instance, the interactive map that Mayors Against Illegal Guns themselves have produced, generally the other states that supply guns to a given state are the ones that are nearby.
Right.
So, so if you have a lot of crime in Illinois, it's not exactly surprising that some of the guns that are sold that are used in crime in Illinois come from, for instance, Kentucky, nearby, easy to get to. People move back and forth, have friends, and so on.
One of the other things, John, is the time to trace.
Mm-hmm.
Mayors Against Illegal Guns makes it seem like we've got people backing up dump trucks to gun stores, loading it up with guns, and then they're driving off to states like New York or New Jersey. But the average time between when a firearm is first sold at retail to when it is traced for whatever reason by the ATF is going up, and it's something like 14 years now, right?
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, as the MAIG study says, only guns that were ATF only considers guns traced within 2 years of their first retail sale to have a high likelihood of being a trafficking indicator. But so again, the vast majority of guns that are sold here have far longer times to trace. Again, I'm glad you used the term time to trace because
Right.
time to crime, of course, is their preferred thing. And as I said, not all guns are used in crime.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's the time to trace. So what do you think Mayors Against Illegal Guns is trying to do with this study, John? Are they trying to go to these states and say you need more gun control laws? Are they trying to bring pressure on these states from outside to change their gun laws?
I think there's some of that. And I think they are also just trying to stir the pot. I think groups like this always have to produce these kinds of studies to make themselves relevant, and that's why you see these duplicative reports ranking the states on this, that, and the other thing. We've had them by MAIG, Legal Community Against Violence, and Brady Campaign, all within the last couple of months. I can't see that it's going to affect the election terribly much, except maybe by firing up our people.
Yeah.
And remind them that there's a serious opposition out there and a serious threat. I also can't see it really causing, for instance, the Alaska state legislature to go out and pass a bunch of new anti-gun laws.
No, let's hope not anyway. Well, John, again, I'm glad you could come on the program and talk about this. Will NRA-ILA have anything up regarding this report at some point, you think?
Yeah, we'll be reporting on it in a forthcoming issue of NRA's magazines. NRA members can read more about gun tracing in the December issue of American Rifleman, American Hunter, and America's First Freedom.
All right. Well, listen, John, thanks again. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Cam. Always a pleasure.
John Frazer, NRA-ILA's Director of Research and Information, joining us here on Cam and Company.